Welcome to episode 44 of Lizzie's Bedtime Stories. I'm welcoming a couple who writes together now, Layce Gardner and Saxon Bennet. Welcome to the show.
Hi, Liz. Hi there.
Hi. So, Saxon, when did you start writing?
In 1990. Well, actually, I wrote a really bad first novel when I was 19, and then I went to school for about 10 years. And then I wrote a second book, and they published the third book. Okay. So in 1995 is when I started, and then I pretty much have done a book a year. There was 1 year that I skipped because I was writing. It was a longer one. It was Family Affair. So pretty much since 1995.
Cool. Layce, you're a little, at least, newer to the crew. Is Tats your first publication?
It's my first novel. I mean, I wrote plays and movies 20 years before that. But yeah, that's my very first book ever.
You have a very active imagination, Layce.
Yes, she does.
It's just like, I should have like a cigar, and yes, she does, madam. So you two...
slow down. It's still going.
You two have a little hootenanny going on. You have your own publishing imprint. Now you're self-publishing. What's the imprint called?
Square Pegs Inc.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we started self-publishing just a few months ago, and so far have put out 2 short stories, right?
Yeah.
And we have a novel. The very first novel's coming out in the first part of April, a romantic comedy. And then we'll have another one in the fall. And then hopefully we're going to do 2 a year.
Okay.
With a whole bunch of short stories in between because we both just love short stories.
Well, there are just so many ways that the writer's market is evolving. And one of the big ones was obviously ebooks. But the more recent one, which I think is kind of awesome, is selling single short stories online.
I think it's fabulous. Saxon and I both grew up, reading Kurt Vonnegut Jr. short stories and Ray Bradbury and reading short stories in magazines, and then suddenly they were gone for years and years. So I think a lot of our reading public right now doesn't know what to make about short stories, but I'm so glad they're coming back. I love them.
Plus, being an anthology is good to get your name out there and whatnot, but I kind of find it appalling what they actually pay for a short story. Some of them are here's $25 and 2 copies of the anthology.
Yeah.
What the hell is that? At least, even though, you're not going to spin gold, usually they're 99 cents each, but you have a shot at it a bit more. And I also feel in the ways that iTunes changed how we buy music, because people now can buy single songs or videos, I tend to buy videos. And I think that's cool because you're no longer forced to buy a bunch of stuff that you may not enjoy all the tracks or whatnot. And I also feel that 99 cents makes you very accessible to people who want to try.
99 cents is so inexpensive. You can't even buy a bottle of pop for that. You can't even buy a candy bar for that. So the fact that you get to sit down for 20 or 30 minutes and read, an entire story, I think is wonderful. I love it.
I think it's so cool. So as you're a writing couple, and you were talking to me before we were on air, and you called it kind of like layering. Who's the first person who starts it? Does it start with an idea? Does it start with a character? How do you generally start your process?
Well, actually, we kind of brainstorm. We have this really nice little leather book that we put all of our ideas in. And usually it starts with, we just sit around and we kind of play around with the idea. And then I do the rough draft for it, and then Layce comes back and does what she's the fixer. She comes through and adds different, another layer to it, and just, I do the real broad strokes, and then she comes in and does the fine work and just tightens it up. adds really, really funny stuff, and it's so rewarding to see something that, you know.
Can you come closer to the mic a little bit, because you're cutting out a bit?
Okay. No, it's sort of like, you know, we got this whole broad stroke thing, and then when I give it to her, and then it comes back, and it's just like, oh, it's amazing. You just, you know, she does some incredible things with it, and it's, you know, you're just like, wow, how she can just, I don't know, fix it and flesh it out, and hopefully I'm going to get laid later on tonight from all of this. Marvelous.
I hope you get laid too. That's always a good thing. So, Lacey, there's this picture I think I had in your first slideshow where you had one of your favorite books, which was Dummy's Guide to Lesbianism. It looks like it's paid off.
Oh, isn't that funny? It was just, that was a brainstorm I had one day, and just had a friend start taking pictures. I made that book, and I put those pictures everywhere. I still love them.
Like she's, for those of you, I'll probably include them in this slideshow, but she's looking like shocked and very intrigued by the Dummy's Guide to Lesbians.
I love that picture. It's awesome.
I'm so goofy.
So you have a story for us. Is this now available on Amazon?
Yeah, and it has been for quite a while. Well, not quite a while,
yeah.
But like since January or December or something.
That's an eternity.
That's an eternity in the publishing world. Now that we're publishers, that's an eternity.
Yeah, you stud muffins.
Yeah, and this one I wrote first because I just had the idea, and I was like, I want to start writing this. While she was working on her latest book, Love Over Moon Street, and then I said, here, now you add the next layer, and she went in and spiced up all the sex scenes some, and then we published it.
What, sidestepped all the sex scenes?
She spiced up all the sex
Oh,
scenes.
spiced them up. That's better. I thought she was skimming through them.
Yeah, no. She spiced them.
a lot of paprika and cumin.
Were there recipes on that book to lesbianism?
Yes, there are.
How to spice up your relationship.
Use cumin. Although, if you do candle magic, one of the elements for romantic or love candles is cinnamon.
So what does that mean? What are you supposed to do with it?
You put whatever oil you want to use on the candle. You can carve images or runes or even words into it, and then you create like almost like a rub with different seasonings that have meanings each thing, and then you rub it along the candle, and when you burn the candle, the oil and the scent of cinnamon and other spices are released in the air, and it's supposed to get you in the mood.
Oh, well, Saxon doesn't need that. She's always in the mood. When you said cinnamon, I thought, are we supposed to do a line and snort it, or what?
Oh.
It makes me sneeze.
Oh my God. I do not support the snorting of cinnamon. It's actually a very bad idea for your respiratory system.
Please put it on YouTube.
Well, cinnamon is hydrophobic, so you're likely to be trying coughing up that cinnamon for eternity. It's not a pleasant experience.
So you speaking from experience?
No, I watched one of those shows they make people do ridiculous things. And one of the things that they had this person do was inhale the cinnamon and whatnot, and it was a terribly bad idea. And I was like, it's hydrophobic. I've never heard of that before. And then when I was creating, what's it called, the mix for cinnamon French toast, and I realized, yeah, that's right. It doesn't want to mix or blend.
Hello?
Yeah? Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can now. You were gone for a while.
Oh, it's okay. I wasn't saying anything important.
Okay, we're back.
All right. So now that you're back and I'm not just talking to myself, can you set up the story that you're going to read for us and then, of course, get started on reading itself?
Okay, I'm turning on my Kindle. I'm going to read from my Kindle. Can you hear me all right?
You sound perfect.
Okay. This short story is called Heart's Desire, written by Saxon and I, and it's available on Amazon, Smashwords, Kobo, Barnes & Noble, all the places, for like 99 cents. And I think I don't want to tell it. It's about a woman named Liz, and her relationship has gone stale.
Oh, okay.
And it's about reigniting the desire.
Okay.
Okay? You ready?
I'm ready.
Here we go. Lisbeth nursed her drink as she looked around the room. It had been forever and a day since she'd been in a bar. She was sitting at the end of the polished and super shellacked counter at Applebee's, a football game blaring on the TV overhead. The bar was crowded with upwardly mobile, horny young men stuffing their faces with beer and fried cheese, all in the name of happy hour. Lisbeth pondered the misnomer happy hour. It was actually 2 hours, which didn't make a lick of sense. Drinks were cheaper, yes, but truth be told, she wasn't much happier. She'd come to the local watering hole hoping to escape the life she'd spent 3 decades constructing, only to find out that she was trapped, in a rut, in a lackluster marriage. Well, not a marriage in the legal sense. She'd never thought that she would be part of one of those old couples that went out to an early bird dinner, sat across the table from each other, and never said a word. She'd never thought she'd be half of a couple that would rather read in bed than make love in bed. But she was. And because of that, here she was at Applebee's, sipping a drink at the so-called happy hour. Lisbeth was well aware that the Applebee's bar at 5 o'clock on a weekday smacked of desperation. But she was desperate. In fact, desperation was rolling off her in waves. If she were a cartoon character, there would be squiggly lines all around her body depicting the smell of desperation. She downed the last of her wine, a house red. She wasn't decisive enough or urbane enough to actually order a kind of wine, so she'd played it safe and let Applebee's decide. What did that say about her? That she was boring? Passive-aggressive? Was it a litmus test of her role in a relationship? No, not a litmus test. An indicator? Whatever it was called, she'd failed miserably. Lisbeth toyed with her empty wine glass and pondered why her not-legal marriage was falling apart. Was it falling apart because she and Donna had stopped having sex? Or had they stopped having sex because their relationship was falling apart? Chicken or the egg? She contemplated the pros and cons of her 32-year relationship with Donna. There seemed to be more cons than pros, but wasn't that to be expected when 2 people had been together as long as they had? The bartender interrupted her internal monologue. She knew that term because she had taken a creative writing course at the college several years ago. By scooting another glass of wine in front of her. "Oh, I didn't order this," Lisbeth said, pushing the drink back at him. "I know," the bartender said, grinning out from under his Tom Selleck mustache. "That lady over there bought it for you." He pointed at a beautiful blonde sitting at the end of the counter. Lisbeth couldn't have been more surprised if the bartender had thrown the drink in her face. She shyly raised her eyes and looked at the woman. She smiled, trying to appear confident, like women bought her drinks all the time. It was a technique she had learned from the book, How to Win Friends and Influence People. See, Elizabeth liked to listen to self-help audiobooks while she drove back and forth to work. The woman smiled back and did one of those air toast across the room things, followed by a slinky wink. Well, Elizabeth didn't know if winks could actually be slinky, but if they could, this one sure was. In fact, if this wink could talk, it would say in a Mae West voice, "I could do a lot of nice things to you, things you'd like." Elizabeth had checked out a paperback book on body language from the library, but had to return it with an overdue charge before she got to the chapter on winking and flirting. "Thank you," Elizabeth mouthed back to the woman. She didn't know the proper protocol for accepting drinks from attractive strangers, and yes, this stranger was terribly attractive. She swept her gaze over the stranger's figure, and yes, it was a very nice figure, and sipped her wine. Elizabeth pretended to watch the football game and mentally scolded herself. What was she doing? Sitting in a strange bar, accepting drinks from strangers. Attractive, nice-figured strangers. She was supposed to be having some me time. That's what she'd told Donna over the phone. She'd said, "I won't be home straight from work. I'm going to stop for a drink or two." There'd been a long pause and only the sound of Donna breathing. Finally, Donna had said, "Are you meeting somebody?" "No, of course not," Elizabeth had replied, followed by a forced laugh that came out sounding more like a snort. "I just need some me time." "Okay," Donna had said. "Have fun. I'll see you when you get home." She'd hung up before Liz could say goodbye. "Who's winning?" Elizabeth gasped and twirled on her seat. The attractive stranger was standing next to her with a smile that could make Tony Robbins proud. The team in the tight pants," Elizabeth said. The woman laughed. Elizabeth couldn't tell if the laugh was polite or genuine. Damn, why didn't she finish that body language book? The woman moved closer and asked, "Are you waiting on somebody?" No, I'm not," Elizabeth stammered. The woman sat down next to her. "Oh, God, what have I done? I've sent out signals to this woman that I'll drink her free drinks and let her sit with me and..." "What's your name?" "Huh?" Elizabeth asked. The stranger traced her finger delicately around the rim of her glass. Elizabeth didn't think she had ever seen anything quite so sensuous. "Your name?" she said in a husky voice. Elizabeth couldn't take her eyes off the woman's lips. She wasn't quite sure she had ever seen lips so inviting, so soft, so pouty, so full. They were lips designed especially for kissing. "Liz. My name is Liz." She had no idea why she had said that. She'd never gone by Liz. She'd always preferred Lizbeth. "Well, Liz, if you don't mind me saying," the woman said, leaning in closer, "you are the sexiest woman I've ever seen in an Applebee's." Liz felt herself blush. "You're only saying that because I'm the only woman in the room," she said coyly, pushing her lips out in a little pout. "My God, am I flirting?" "I am. I'm actually flirting." "No, I'm saying that because it's true. In fact, it's more than true." The woman raked her eyes down Lizbeth's body. Lizbeth shivered under the warm gaze. The woman leaned in so close, Lizbeth felt her breath in her ear. "Would you like to get out of here?" the woman whispered. "Yes," Lizbeth replied without hesitation. "Yes, I would like that very much." Lizbeth, now Liz, got in her own car and followed the woman's white Camry to a nearby motel. The motel itself was mediocre, nondescript, but Liz was much too nervous to have noticed the decor anyway. They checked into room number 7, and Liz was thankful that the room was clean. Emboldened by the 2 drinks, at least that was the excuse she gave herself, she undressed under the watchful gaze of the woman. She undid each of the tiny pearl buttons of her blouse. As she slipped the blouse down her shoulders, the woman kissed Liz's neck, shoulders, and chest. 1 kiss for each button. Tiny button kisses. Liz closed her eyes and sighed at the touch of those sensuous fingers trailing down her back. The woman nibbled at her ear, down her neck, and across her collarbone, making Liz's nipples erect. She unbuttoned Liz's trousers, letting them fall to the floor, and ran her hands over her silky panties, pulling Liz's buttocks into her, their bodies fitting together perfectly. The woman kissed her deeply, her tongue a preview of things to come. The woman unhooked Liz's bra and slipped it off her shoulders. She lightly touched her breasts, teasing her nipples. The woman, the stranger, sat on the edge of the bed and pulled Liz to her. She played with the waistband of Liz's panties. She caressed her palm between Liz's legs, the silky fabric clinging to the contours of Liz's desire. Liz gasped as her wetness became apparent. The woman slid Liz's panties off. Liz stood naked and uncaring of how her body looked. The woman wanted her. That was all she cared about. The woman gently parted Liz's legs and ran her tongue along the insides of her thighs. Liz's legs weakened as the woman's tongue slid within her folds and across that special, oh, so special place. Liz tangled her fingers in the back of the woman's hair and thought of asking the woman her name. It only seemed right to know the name of somebody whose face was between your thighs, but oh my God, this felt so good. And then the woman slipped her fingers inside her and names no longer mattered. The woman thrust harder into Liz, her tongue flicking across the special spot, her fingers deeper and deeper and deeper inside until Liz thought she'd drop from the pure, unadulterated need. Then came the release. Not the slow, spreading glow like she usually had, but a ripping to the core kind of explosion. An orgasm's orgasm. Liz cried out and toppled onto the bed. She stripped the woman's shirt off while the woman yanked off her pants. Seconds later, her bra and panties were flung across the room. Liz pulled the woman down on top of her, needing to feel bare skin against her own. She wrapped her legs around the woman's waist and thrust into her. The woman rocked and bucked against her with the same urgent need. Liz held on for dear life because that's what it felt like if she didn't hold on, she'd be swept down a river of ecstasy, carried so far away in the fast current that she might never return. 3 orgasms later, Liz drove home. Her knees were still shaking. Her head was still swimming. Her thighs still tingled. And for the first time in years, she felt wanted. She felt alive. She let herself into her dark house, showered, and fell asleep in her empty bed. She didn't even wake up when Donna came home late from work. On Saturday, Elizabeth walked to the farmer's market. She loved the smell of the coffee, the homemade soap and candles, and the fresh herbs hanging in the stalls. She selected a handful of green beans and new potatoes from one of her favorite vendors and paid. And she stopped at the next booth to admire a bar of goat's milk soap. She held it to her nose and inhaled. It smelled of jasmine and mint. "You like?" the soap lady asked. Elizabeth looked up and met the woman's eyes. She smelled like patchouli, and her hair hung in dreads with beads and feathers weaved in. Elizabeth nodded and placed the soap back onto the table. She would love to buy it, but Donna wouldn't approve. Donna said such items were extravagances. She thought a bar of Irish Spring should be good enough for anybody, and anything more was a vanity purchase. Elizabeth thought it was a wonder Donna allowed Q-tips in the house when you had a perfectly good pinky finger. The soap lady held the bar of soap out to her. "Goat's milk makes your skin soft and supple. Your lover will be thankful you bought this soap." Elizabeth blushed. I don't have a lover." "A beautiful woman like you? I find that hard to believe," said a voice. Elizabeth inhaled sharply and turned. A woman stood behind her, a tall, shapely woman with eyes the same color of the lapis lazuli necklace she wore. "Thank you," Elizabeth managed to say. "That's very kind of you to say." "Oh, I wasn't being kind. I was being truthful." The woman looked at the soap lady and said, "I'll buy that bar of soap and a couple of those ylang-ylang candles, please." She handed over the money and accepted the soap and candles. But instead of putting them into her own basket, she placed them into Elizabeth. "For you." the woman said. But, Elizabeth stammered, I don't know how to repay you. The woman smiled. Oh, I think you do. Room 7 looked better in the dim light of the candles. And the soap lady had been right. The soap was not only wonderful to smell, but it left her skin feeling supple and soft. The blue-eyed woman stood in the shower behind Liz, rubbing the soap over her body. She took her time, lathering Liz's neck and shoulders, massaging with her strong fingers, releasing the built-up tension. Liz moaned appreciatively. She'd never really been a moaner, not until this moment. The woman slid her soapy hands down, caressing Liz's butt, and then kneeling to massage her calves and thighs in a special spot, and the folds, caressing until Liz thought she might scream. Just when Liz couldn't stand another moment, the woman slipped inside her, rubbing her thumb in just the right spot. And Liz came hard, so hard she was half afraid of becoming just another statistic about fatal accidents in the shower. Liz wanted to make the woman feel the same wonder. She took her time exploring her body. Liz's palms left slick, soapy trails over her stomach and breasts. She turned the woman around and cupped her butt and stroked the inside of her thighs. The woman braced herself against the shower wall. Liz took her from behind, stroking and dipping inside a little further each time. Each time she felt the woman on the verge of climaxing, she changed her rhythm, delaying the deliciousness. Please let me come, the woman begged, pressing into her. Liz entered her hard, and the woman rocked back against her. Liz felt powerful, like a woman capable of making her lover beg. The woman made a strangled noise from deep in her throat. Liz thought she had hurt her. The woman turned and collapsed against Liz, shivering under the hot water. Liz held her close, stroking her back. Are you okay? Liz asked. The woman nodded. More than okay. Liz realized the woman had been crying out in ecstasy, and she was filled with the prowess of her own sexuality, with a strange feeling, a feeling she could get used to. After the shower, they made their way to the bed, leaving behind a trail of jasmine-scented water. They made love again, sweetly, delicately, touching, biting, licking. Liz savored the sweet taste of the woman. She pulled the woman's hips into her as she laid her body on top of the woman. Look at me, she commanded. Their eyes met, and they moved in sync with each other. Liz was inside her, and she was inside Liz. It was a perfect melding of desire. Together, the woman panted. Liz held on, kept her orgasm on the verge until she felt the woman start to come, and then she let go. They shuddered and gasped in unison. My God, Liz said, I didn't even know that was possible. I believe in possibilities. Later that day, as Elizabeth was putting dinner on the table, Donna arrived home. She mumbled something about an emergency at work as she sat down at the table. She ate 2 bites of green beans and new potatoes and said, These are wonderful. Where'd you get them? A small smile played across Elizabeth's features. Farmer's market. Elizabeth walked up and down the aisles of Sister Women bookstore, not knowing exactly what she was looking for. A book, yes. Maybe a romance. Maybe something sexy and sweet. Yes, definitely sexy and romantic. Something to escape into since my own relationship is so stale and arthritic. Elizabeth didn't know if relationships could actually be arthritic, but if so, then hers was creaking in all its joints. At last, Elizabeth found the perfect book. It was a romantic comedy. Perfect. I can laugh and still be swept away by romance. She headed for the register, happy with her selection. Elizabeth stopped when she saw an attractive woman sitting on the floor with a pile of books beside her. She was methodically reading the last page of each book before putting it into one of 2 stacks. The woman felt Elizabeth's gaze and looked up. Elizabeth felt compelled to speak. I noticed that you were only reading the last page of each book. Yeah, I know, the woman said. It's a little weird, but I only like books with happy endings. I don't enjoy a book unless the two women get together and live happily ever after. Yeah, something like that, the woman said. What do you like to read? Well, I flip through the books and read all the sex scenes, Elizabeth said boldly. A part of her couldn't believe she just said that. But a bigger part of her was already feeling this woman's skin on her fingertips and tasting her on her lips. Oh, my God. Had she turned into some sort of lesbian Casanova? Here she was cruising, actively, intently cruising another woman. Room 7 was going to need a revolving door. Say, the woman said, would you like to get out of this place and go somewhere more? The pause lingered. Fun? You aren't a serial killer or anything, are you? Elizabeth asked, offering her hand to the woman. Oh, God, no, the woman said, standing. I don't even own a van. Too bad, Liz said. I was hoping you could make me do some naughty things. Elizabeth felt sure the woman would balk at that. The woman might even slap her. Hell, she deserved to be slapped. Where was this boldness coming from? She had gone from shrinking Violet to Venus flytrap in just 2 weeks' time. And most absurdly of all, she actually liked the new, improved her. The woman looked Elizabeth in the eye. Let's go. Liz had barely closed the door to room 7 before she pressed the woman up against it. She hungrily kissed the woman. They grappled at each other's clothes, ripping, pulling, tearing, throwing them into a jumbled heap onto the floor. They didn't even make it to the bed before they slid to the floor and entered each other at the same time. They stared into each other's eyes as they moved, making noises like feral cats. They came together, backs arched, mouths open, eyes closed. Liz lay panting, her face buried in the woman's neck. She could feel the rise and fall of the woman's breathing. The woman's nipples, still hard, were pressing against her own. Liz slowly pulled her hand away from the woman. The woman gasped. Shall we try somewhere softer? The woman said, giving Liz a hand up. Liz checked her elbows. I think I have rug burn. Yeah, you should see my ass, the woman said. I am. It's lovely. And it has a giant rug burn shaped like Texas. They laughed. Liz had never laughed during the sex part with Donna. Everything was always serious and quiet and sedate, not like this. Liz liked this. The woman pushed Liz back onto the bed and crawled over to her. She grabbed Liz's ankles and pulled her to the edge of the bed. Kneeling on the floor, the woman draped Liz's legs over her shoulders. Oh, my God, Liz said. She was too stunned to think of anything more clever or original to say. The woman's eyes twinkled mischievously. You'll be saying that a few more times before I'm done with you. She flicked her tongue across Liz's sweet spot. Oh, my God. They spent the rest of the evening exploring each other's bodies, tasting, touching, bringing each other to heights neither one of them had ever explored before. They also laughed and giggled and teased and held each other like they were friends and lovers. It was a wonderful feeling, a feeling of connectedness, completeness that Liz had never experienced before. Looking at the clock on the nightstand broke the spell. The woman lay sleeping in Liz's arms. In another life, Liz would tease the woman over coffee in bed about how she had worn her out. But in this life, she had to get home. Liz dressed and left the hotel room quietly, gazing back on the woman, thinking this one was her favorite, this laughing, loving, sexy woman with the rug burn on her ass. Elizabeth woke up in the middle of the night as Donna eased into the bed. She lay awake until she heard Donna's steady breathing. She couldn't get back to sleep. Another insomnia-ridden night. Maybe I should get up and read. That was when Elizabeth realized she hadn't bought the book she'd picked out at the bookstore. Damn. Maybe I can go back and buy it next week. Maybe I'll run into that hot woman again. Elizabeth replayed the events of the past month in her mind. The blonde stranger who bought her a glass of wine at Applebee's. The woman with the blue eyes at the farmer's market. the woman from the bookstore who loved happy endings. Elizabeth finally fell asleep with a faint smile on her lips. A couple of days later, Elizabeth came home from an excruciating day at work. She was tired, cranky, and craving a hot bubble bath to restore her shot nerves. She saw Donna's car in the driveway and vaguely wondered what she was doing home at this hour. She usually worked late and wouldn't arrive home until well after dinner. Elizabeth opened the door and was met with a surprise. Lit candles were everywhere. The coffee table, the fireplace mantel, the foyer table. It was very romantic. Her first thought was that maybe Donna was having an affair. Maybe she'd walked in on a romantic rendezvous with Donna and her girlfriend. Elizabeth shucked off her jacket and shoes and placed her keys in the dish on the foyer table. There was a book where she'd always put her keys. She picked it up for a closer look. It was the one she'd forgotten to purchase at the bookstore. Walking into the living room, Elizabeth found another surprise. There was a trail of red rose petals leading across the room and down the hallway. Feeling a little like Dorothy skipping down the yellow brick path, Elizabeth followed the red carpet of rose petals. The trail ended at the bathroom door. The door was ajar. Elizabeth pushed it open. She blinked her eyes in amazement. The glow from several candles shimmered against the mirror. Donna was lounging in a hot, steamy bubble bath. 2 glasses of red wine rested on the rim of the tub. The air smelled sweet, like jasmine and mint. "What's going on?" Elizabeth whispered. "Care to join me?" Donna said seductively. "You did all this for me?" Elizabeth asked. "No," Donna said. "I did it for us." Elizabeth slid out of her clothes and into the hot water. She sat between Donna's legs and leaned back into her arms. Donna soaked up the loofah and lightly washed Elizabeth's shoulders and arms. Elizabeth recognized the scent and feel of the goat's milk soap from the farmer's market. "I love this soap," Elizabeth said. "I know." Donna kissed Elizabeth's ears and neck. Elizabeth's nipples responded immediately. Donna's kisses stopped. "You know, I've been thinking about next time I'd like to be the disgruntled wife, and you can pick me up at bookstores and restaurants." Liz smiled, and that suited her just fine. She didn't care who played which role, as long as the fire was back in the relationship. She would do whatever it took to feel this way and to be with the woman she loved. "That sounds like fun," Liz said. "Whatever is your heart's desire." The end.
Somehow the little romantic in me knew that it was going to end that way.
You know.
Even before the rose petals, I was like, this smacks of something familiar. But I'm hoping that people didn't stop listening early on and like.
I know. See, that's what I'm hoping is they won't go, "Oh, she's an adulteress. I don't want to deal with it," you know. And they just read the whole thing first and go, "Ah."
So hopefully people hung on for the ride. I might do a teaser regarding that when I put up the episode. Not giving anything away, but you know.
Yeah. Well, no one has said anything like that so far about it. So I think they've all read it. The people who have read it all and liked it. And you know, the moral is one that I really like, is that, you know, you have to keep breathing fire into your relationship to keep it strong.
It's true. It's true.
You know?
Especially being together that long.
Yeah.
You have to keep it going, otherwise it fizzles out.
You have to pay attention to it.
Mm-hmm. I enjoy your storytelling as always, Lacey, and I like you two working together as a team.
I do too. I like it so much. And Liz, thank you so much for bringing us onto the show and for having this show for everyone to enjoy all the time. It means so much to all of us.
Aw, thank you for saying
so. You are full stick.
Aw, shucks. Thank you so much. It has been wonderful. And Saxon, I know you're back there somewhere.
Yes, I'm back.
So I appreciate both.
The whole thing.
What happened?
I made her sit through the whole thing, but she started to make me laugh a couple of times.
We had to look up how you say it. How do you say it?
What is it? The lang lang?
I was wondering with that word. I was like, she doesn't seem altogether that comfortable with that particular word.
No, and that's where I started to laugh because we looked it up about 5 minutes before we started talking. I was like, you would write something I don't know how to pronounce.
Do you know?
If I go over it really fast, maybe nobody.
Do you know?
In my southern accent, it just doesn't work with like those foreign words.
Foreign. Do you know I actually changed the name of a character because it was too hard to say out loud when I was doing the reading?
Well, see? Yeah.
I'll fess up. I changed the name so it was easier to say. But yeah, I thought it was awesome.
Thank you very much, hon. You're awesome.
No, you're awesome.